Anyway, on a related story on games. Now, if you notice, we've been talking about creating hype in terms of limited accessibility on any products. It tends to sell better, sell well, or pay a high premium at that. But what's interesting here, Nintendo, who produced Super Mario, uh, actually last year launched the 30th, 35th anniversary by releasing the Super Mario 3D All Stars, the three games, and they only said that they're going to release it for a short period, which is was has already ended early this month, end of March, and they're not going to showcase it anymore, which is I find it kind of ironic. If people are clamoring buying your games, retro games at that, why would you stop selling it? Now there were speculations that they were trying to drive hype there so that people would be in a rush to buy it since it's only limited. But I think that's a wrong move for this for Nintendo if they're trying to generate more revenue. And as you know, as the data shows, people would still continue to buy their popular games, not just current ones, but even older ones. Actually, in their platform, I bought two retro games. I bought not necessarily retro, but an older game. What do you call this? The Final Fantasy VII, the original one, and I played it in the Switch. So, I'm not the only one here who would like to play not just new games, but older games. Played games I played years back when I was younger. And I also downloaded another Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy X, one of my favorites. So, it makes sense to keep on, making it available to your consumers so that for those who haven't played it before has a chance to play it. So you're missing a big opportunity if you just said, "Oh, it's only available for a limited time," and they're making big mistakes, or they're going to reopen it or making it available sometime in the future. Who knows? Anyway, so let's see here. Or was it? Okay. There you go. As mentioned here, so the 3D All Stars, as mentioned, combines different games here, and if you haven't bought it, the Super Mario 64, the Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, by end of March, then it will be gone forever. Which is, I hope it's a big. They realize it's a big mistake that they would uh, make it available again in the future. Now, obviously, there's still physical games available for purchase, but with the pandemic and all, with the limited copies, making it harder for people, why make it hard? I mean, people are willing to spend. Why not make it easier for them, right? But it is what it is. Good for those making those decisions in Nintendo. Anyway, so it was supposed to be a limited release based on the Super Mario Brothers 35th anniversary here. So they're making a pitch that you should buy it right now, and I tend not to be rushed. If I want a game, I'll buy it eventually. And what's funny is I have other games I haven't finished, so why would I buy something I'm not going to play right away unless I really like the game? Typically, that's more so on newer games rather than older games, right? And is it a fair? Is it pro consumer what they're doing here? And what's sad about it? It's not just Nintendo who's doing non pro consumer stuff that irritates many of the consumer, even I. Actually, it's not just Nintendo here. Who else? You also have PlayStation. Or was it? There you go. Yeah, PlayStation. Closing their PlayStation store for older games for PS3, PS Vita, and as well as PSP here. So you can just imagine here. If you know that games are selling well, people are still buy. Actually, there was an article mentioned that there are still developers making games for older consoles for PS Vita. I won't say PS3, but people are still buying the game. So there's no. I don't know if it's going to cost them a lot in terms of maintaining it in their databases, but you know they say that they're going to retain. If you bought it, you're able to re-download it. But for the new gamers, like let's say if I want to buy an old game, let's say I want to buy the Metal Gear Solid game, I won't be able to purchase it anymore, which is kind of stupid if you think about it. as I mentioned, why make it difficult for consumers to buy your product if it's readily available in your databases? And there's no, you don't have to manage it in a sense, and money will keep on coming in, printing money, so to speak, right? And what's interesting here, they didn't even announce it to their fellow developers in that platforms, and they were just left unaware, surprised to find out later on that, hello, it's not available anymore. Come, come this summer, right? So, as mentioned, players can no longer redeem gift cards through these devices. So, your money can still be used for the PSN wallets or PlayStation Network, for PS4 and PS5, which got me thinking. If they're going to, what do you call this, phase out older generations, what would happen in the future? Let's say we move on to PS6 or PS7, whatever the newer generations come. What would happen to the PS4 titles or PS5 titles that I bought online? Would they do the same? Which is kind of surreal and unfair, right? And if you compare this to Microsoft's Xbox, and they've been doing tremendous, right? I mean, from day one, if you buy their Xbox Game Pass, you are able to play not just current games, but all of the games from the past, from Xbox One, Xbox Series, and all of those consoles as mentioned. And it makes a compelling case for consumers, even or for gamers, to patronize your product, even if you have limited newer games, because you have tons and tons of older games that you could play off. You have Halo is another, and obviously with their acquisition of Bethesda, you can play what do you call this? Elder Scrolls. Then you have Doom and so forth. So makes it a more compelling case. I think it's a wrong strategy for both Nintendo and even for PlayStation here, neglecting what consumers want. And there was an article, it was mentioned that the Sony PlayStation head stated that older generation is not in high demand, which I beg to disagree. The fact that remake games sells a lot means people like to play the older games. Even it's just a rehash or an updated version, people would still play it. Obviously, they're trying to capitalize on it. That's why you see remakes of one from a previous console generation to another and another. Why not just be able to download it and be able to play in different consoles, right? Make it a better experience, and your gamers would be more loyal to your ecosystem rather than making a compelling case. Should I switch to Microsoft? Because Microsoft's making it easy for me to play games, right? Whether I play it in my console, PC, or even offline, or even in the cloud. Well, we'll only see unless consumers demand it. I guess things will always stay the same, but people would, pay for it gladly as long as they get to play those exclusive games, right? But up to a certain point, right? I think PlayStation or Sony here has been, becoming too complacent again, like what they did. How they, when they released the PS3 back then was terrible, but they were able to recover and make improvements, and they just have to continue, not always go one step forward, two steps backwards, so that you make you're trying to appease your shareholders, but at the end of the day, without your gamers, your consumer, you will not be where you are right now, right? Well, hopefully they will be able to introduce this sometime later, providing backwards compatibility for older games, right? Would be nice to play the original, like I mentioned, the Metal Gear Solid 1. I can also play, what was it? Gran Turismo. I played that, the first one, right? It looks pixelated, terrible, but hopefully they can make a rehash version here in the future.